Yeah. Hello, hello, hello. It is 7 p.m. on the East Coast, March 28th, Tuesday. No one's probably hearing any of this because you're just now logging in. But regardless, welcome to Community Conversations. If you're just joining us, please say hi. Let us know where you're from. And hey, Matt B in the house. And if anybody has in these early minutes, if you have an idea for the question to start out, please feel free to weigh in and we can repost it. So, what should we ask? Questions. Hey, Amy, good to see you. If you're just joining us, I hope everyone is doing well. We always like to give it a couple minutes to let people get in and get settled. And so if you're just joining us, say hi from Wisconsin. Excellent. I was like, if I first saw that, I was like, from World War One. Wow. It's okay. Yep, Wisconsin. Roger that. Deirdre in the house. So feel free to say hi. Let us know where you're from. And if anybody has any ideas for a good question to answer, I loved the one we had last time, which was like, if you could jump into a pool of anything, what would it be? It was kind of brilliant. Alex in the house. My sister from another well, anyway. Hey, Alex, hope you're well. And Bradley, hey, Bradley, I hope you're well. Have another 45 seconds to go. All right, no question. That's the rule. Waiting for FB to go live. Oh, did FB not go live? That's weird. Yeah, because Alex is on FB. Maybe refresh, Deirdre. If you're just joining us, welcome, welcome. Thank you for being here. Please let us know you're here. Say hi. Let us know where you're from. And we'll get started in just about 15 seconds. Hey, Kayla, good to see you. I feel like I haven't seen you in a week or so, a couple weeks. Good to see you. Hello, Grace. I'm in Atlanta as well. Duluth in the house. The whole family's here. I feel good. I feel good. It's like a family affair. I'm super psyched. Laura, it's a great question. I can definitely get to that question, so stay tuned. For sure. Okay, so finally, last thing, if you're just joining us, thank you so much for being here. We're going to get started. I'm just going to read off some housekeeping, but go ahead and say hi. Let me know how you are, where you're from. Feel free to load in some questions. Kayla, I'm down. I'm down for anything. I'm just the host. It's your party. So I look forward to hey, Beth Carducci. Yeah, I'm down for anything. Hit me. Karaoke. Awesome. I love it. Oh, all my favorite people here. Okay, so let's get this over so we can talk. So my name is Ethan. I'm an advocate. We all know that. Okay, this is a community conversation, and it's intended to serve as educational content and is not intended to replace therapy. For treatment-related questions, please be sure to work with your local provider or contact a local clinician. The International OCD Foundation is not a crisis hotline. If you are in a crisis or ever feeling suicidal or unsafe, please go to your local emergency room or call 911 or the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline by dialing 988. We want to create a safe space and kind and be respectful to everyone. At the end of the day, we're all here to support one another. And a note, this is being broadcast on several social media platforms and is being recorded. Of note also, unfortunately, on Instagram, we've been having a troll really disrupt some wonderful conversations. So if that happens to happen here, we will deal with it. But I'm just giving fair warning, but hopefully that won't happen. If it does, we're just going to ignore. Yeah, I'm so sorry, Alex. Yeah, everybody got the brunt of it yesterday. So anyway, we're going to ignore it. We don't feed the troll. It's like OCD. We treat the troll like an intrusive thought, no matter what the troll says. So, but just wanted to give everyone a heads up just in case. Awesome, Duluth. That's fantastic. Okay, so take the band hammer out. Oh, the band hammer. Okay, I was like, I thought you were. Anyway, yes, I agree. Unfortunately, they're switching up usernames and creating new accounts, and I think they're using a VPN and a roaming IP address, and so it's like when we ban, they just come back as somebody different. It's really frustrating. Agreed, Matt B. So, Leanne, there was not an icebreaker question, and it is not too late to put one in the comments because I think that we could just answer it throughout the stream. So, Leanne, it is your night to shine. What is your icebreaker question? Deirdre, we should totally bring you on to mod for some streams. If you're a mod ninja, we're totally down for this. So I'm going to start with some initial questions that came out. I have some stuff to discuss this week that I want to share with y'all about my own journey in the last couple of weeks, and of course, always, hey John, always always want to hear what's going on in your lives, how you're doing, things that you want to talk about. So we'll definitely open it all the way up. Nikki Bradley from Dublin in the house. That's awesome. Hi, Nikki. It's good to see you. Okay, so let me jump back up real quick before we get too far behind. Kayla, again, definitely down for a lighthearted, fun challenge tonight. So let me know what I'm expecting here. I'm just scrolling back up to Laura's question at 7:02 p.m. She writes, "Hi, Ethan. My whole family likes to judge my mental illness, severe OCD. Why is that?" It's a great question. And I want to announce that we have put it in the schedule to have a town hall on families. And this came about, I forgot who made the initial suggestion, but it was a great suggestion. Lori, first of all, you're not alone. This is so unfortunately common. And so we'll be doing an entire town hall dedicated to individuals whose family and friends don't support their mental illness and are kind of unwilling to hear what it's about and are stigmatizing and judgy and all of those things. So stay tuned. That'll be coming up in the next month or two, I think, or maybe next couple of months. So, hi, Wendy. I didn't see you. Wendy wintering in Arizona. I like it. So, Laura, unfortunately, depending on a lot of different reasons, ranging from the way people grow up and were raised to faith traditions to a number of other things that, I personally don't know your situation. There's a lot of reasons why a family may harshly judge someone's mental illness. Most of the time it's from lack of understanding. And, a lot of people are afraid of things that they don't understand. And so they act out or lash out. Again, also playing a major role is potentially, again, how they were raised and how they were taught about mental illness and, something you're not supposed to talk about, or that it's just being weak. And, so I'm sure some or all of that, maybe it's resonating with you, Laura, is playing a role in how your family reacts to your mental illness. I think some good approaches on how to cope and deal is, the first thing we want to do is compassionately educate. I know it can get very, very frustrating. And I know that it's painful and it hurts. So I think some things that we can definitely do is, first of all, take a breath and then educate ourselves. So Laura, like, my first question to you is, how educated are you on OCD? Would you be able to explain it in a healthy way to your family? You may have tried. You may say, Ethan, I've tried all of this, and we can definitely take it from there. I'm just throwing out some initial thoughts. Sometimes if they don't want to listen to you, bringing up an article or showing a video on YouTube that explains OCD in a way that's meaningful to you. Sometimes it can be an article from somebody who's a celebrity or in the news that people pay attention to, but that brings, and it's unfortunate, but that brings authenticity, right, to the illness. It's not just, oh, my daughter's just being such a way. It's, this person, oh, well, there's something to this. And so, compassionately bringing it up and saying, this is something in my life that's very interfering. It's a disorder. It's a disease. It's not who I am. I don't choose to act this way. I don't choose to have these thoughts. And then, present some sort of article or video, or you can go to the IOCDF website and kind of start there. And I think a lot of people, and rightfully so, when they get stigmatized by family, they immediately get defensive, and understandably, right, and emotional and all of those things. I think to potentially, you may have done this already, so I apologize if I'm repeating, but to potentially start to bring up OCD when you're not struggling, or when you're not having a hard time, when you're maybe having, a good day and you're hanging out with your family, and instead of being hot and in the moment and emotional, maybe you're having a good day and you can sit down. Hey, there's something I want to talk to you about. I know you see me struggle, and I know that you're like, but I'd really like to have a conversation with you about it. And coming at it at that kind of time, they might be more open to listening. So just a few tips that I suggest, but I apologize. You're definitely not alone. I know people will comment on that. So, but hopefully that helps, Laura. Just, wow, lots of comments. Holy moly. I love this group so much. Okay, I'm going back up. Going back up to the shallow end of the pool where it's safe. Okay. I'm just going to jump right into questions there. There are a lot of questions, or a lot of, I think Leanne broke it open. I saw one question before. Okay. So Leanne asked, any tips for using public toilets and on public sinks? Great question. So I used a bunch of them. I did a lot of traveling. I used my first toilet in Canada, both public and private. I mean, hotel is like semi-private because so I guess it was used before and after me, but not technically in the same day. Um, you know, I think from an OCD perspective, the tip is to embrace the uncertainty and do the things that we know that are healthy around those things. So the first question I would ask is, do people use public toilets? Yes. Maybe not everyone, but people do use them. That doesn't mean that it's easy. I'm not saying compare yourself to other people, but we want to give ourselves a baseline and say that this is not jumping out of a plane, right? This is something that seems like a reasonable thing. So, and then what are the fears and thoughts that are related to discomfort around using a sink or a public toilet, right? Maybe it's germs, contamination, emotional contamination. It could be a variety of things. And then being willing to sort of sit with the thoughts and the discomfort and use it anyway, because going to the bathroom is a value. I've never said that, but now that I think about it, it probably is a very reasonable value, right? I want to poop when I have to poop. So, I think that there's things that are reasonable, and I don't want to I apologize in advance if this is triggering, but I will take you through now I will preface by saying I do not have, my OCD doesn't revolve around this kind of thing, but I will generally look, and if the toilet's disgusting, I won't use it because that's gross, right? So I kind of have like in my head how clean I will go or not clean I will go. And usually in an airport situation where I was just at, it's sort of like, what's the least worst option I can choose? And then, I'll lay the sheet over it or whatever and use it and wash my hands and move forward. If it's something that you get stuck with or it's difficult to manage, obviously you can develop exposures and response preventions around those things, and with the help of a treatment provider, ideally. But in terms of tips, it really at the end of the day is just being willing to sit with the discomfort of whatever feelings those things bring up with you, and recognize that you are living with your values and following, is the discomfort of not going to the bathroom less or worse than the discomfort of what you may feel afterwards, and embracing whatever icky thoughts come around. I'm going to keep going. Colorado thinks you're the best. Listen, Colorado is like one of my favorite places to visit. Estes Park is my happy place. I brought Katie there over the weekend. And so I'm over the weekend. Sorry, I was reading somebody's weekend comment. I brought her there last summer, and there's a 3% chance we would move there. She fell in love with it too. I love it out there for sure. Bradley James at 7:05 p.m. Any recommendations for someone who just started ERP yesterday? Any words of advice? Thanks. Yeah, for sure. First of all, I don't know if it's you or a friend, but congratulations on starting ERP. That's a huge step, and I know it can feel very challenging. I think the biggest piece of advice going into it is understand that it's a marathon, not a sprint. So this takes time, and it's a systematic journey. And the best comparison I can give you is if you wanted to make a lifestyle health change and you decided to start working out and going to a gym and working with a personal trainer, what is your expectation for that first visit, right? Is it, I'm going to leave the gym today looking like Michael B. Jordan? Or am I going to know that I'm going to have to go regularly and do this daily and challenge myself, and I'm going to have setbacks and I'm going to have wins, but over time, as long as I have more wins than setbacks, I will slowly get the desired result, right? And that's kind of the attitude we have to go into ERP with. Understanding that it may get worse before it gets better. The whole point of ERP is drawing out the OCD so we can kind of punch it in the face, right? So when we do that, that makes us feel more uncomfortable. That increases anxiety, but it's all for a greater good, which is living a beautiful life that you deserve. Hopefully, OCD free or OCD mostly free, right? And not letting OCD dictate your decisions and influence your functioning. So I think going in it with that greater good mentality, I always say, oh my gosh, I always say this thing that I can't remember. So winning, short-term pain, long-term gain, right? That's the whole idea. You're investing. I always look at it like you won the lottery and you get $5 million, except you can't spend it right now. You're not allowed to touch it. You have to put it in an account, and that's painful, right? Because you want to play and have fun, but and that X amount of time it's going to grow and be able to support you the rest of your life, and that's kind of like treatment and therapy. It won't take 5 or 10 years, but the point is that you know you'll face the discomfort and pain now to live a beautiful, healthy, productive life the rest of your life. And that makes it totally worth it. Other than that, give yourself lots of grace and self compassion. Please try to notice the little wins because every win is a huge win. But it's really hard to see when you're going through it. So make sure that you pay attention, and also hopefully your therapist points out your wins as well, because we're a terrible judge of how well we're doing in ERP. It never feels like we're doing quite well enough. The last bit of information I'll give you that is a key piece is your feelings will be very deceiving, and don't trust your feelings. And what I mean by that is, you know, feelings in regards to OCD are completely valid, but they're generally deceiving and not our friend. We use feelings for a lot of things in life, right? Feelings usually dictate and give us a sense of something that we should do or not do, or what we should pay attention to, right? But with OCD, a lot of times feelings are associated with the OCD thoughts, and they make the thoughts seem more valid or more factual, right? And we therapists call this emotional reasoning. So I have a thought, it's scary. Oh, I had a feeling about that thought. Oh crap, there must be something to it, right? So what we want to do is not give into that feeling, to be like, yep, that feels crappy, but I'm going to take it with me, just like the thought, and do things that I need to do anyway. So that's my last recommendation, which is be mindful of the feelings. They're crappy. That's valid. They can feel like crap. That's okay. And they are 100%, natural in all the things that you're thinking and feeling. But when it comes to OCD specifically, we don't want to give them a lot of weight, because most likely they are just deceiving you. Oh, I like it. Favorite grocery item while shopping locally. I'm down. Okay. I like it. I want to think about that. Deleuze asks at 7:06 p.m. Ethan, what's your view on really getting out in the world and working like a beast while also creating space for your challenges and not denying them or grasping towards wholesome mind states? Are you talking about life balance, Deleuze? Maybe it's also while also creating space for your challenges and not denying them or grasping towards the wholesome. Yeah, I mean, so listen, it brings up this concept of acceptance commitment therapy. It's like those of us with OCD, can tend to fall into a very black or white category of seeing things, and so we tend to wait till things are perfect and right. And so the problem with that is things are very rarely absolutely perfect to go do something, or timing or whatever. So, but because we also look at things black and white, I think I can look at your question and say, well, what are your thoughts on working like a beast? And I think we tend to be like, I'm going to go out and crush it and not take time for anything else. And you're saying like, but also create space. I think living a balanced life is really challenging. It is for me anyway. I think I hit the sweet spot here and there throughout the year, but inevitably I land on either side of it, probably more times than not, probably more on the work side than not. I know when I'm living a balanced life because I'm working, and I think I'm in that place right now where I'm working really efficiently and effectively, but I have time to be mindful throughout the day. I have time to make myself meals. I have time to sit down and eat that meal. I have time to go to the bathroom, and it's not always like that. For the last 2 or 3 weeks, up until I traveled last week, I had that kind of time, and I was really grateful for it. And so I think it's really challenging. I do think you can schedule, for me, scheduling mindfulness periods in your day, um, and to take care of your mind and body is important. So I try to schedule times to walk and times to just take a break. And listen, doing nothing and self-care is different than doing something but not work, which is also different than work. So I think people say like, well, you're not working, so you're off. It's like, well, off to me is like sitting quietly or somebody that I love and just zoning or watching TV or whatever, right? If I'm out with friends, that's not off to me. It's relaxing, don't get me wrong, but that's still doing something. So I think there's kind of three areas to play with here, and life balance can be really challenging. what we want to do is create space, but we don't want to create space to give into our OCD. When we want to create space to essentially manage our OCD effectively and keep ourselves in a state of moving forward in a state of balance, right? So that's ultimately the goal. And scheduling things is effective for me. And then just trying to find moments in balance. Also learning for myself, like, do I need to do this right now? Is this something I need to respond to right now? It's really hard for me. I want to respond to everybody right away. I want to prove myself to everyone right away. I want to be the best possible version of myself all the time, all the time. And so I think asking yourself and having that insight to pause and say, no, I don't need to answer this right now. This can wait till tomorrow. I think that will be okay. Breaking your day down into what's absolutely necessary, what can't wait, and what can probably wait, and what can definitely wait. So there's a lot of challenges with this, but I think living a balanced life is completely attainable. And I think just like this idea of balance in anything else, it's definitely achievable, and I would love to live there more. And I always say, my word of the year is balance. I say that every year. And last year I did not have that, and because of stress, I dealt with some stuff. So this year I'm really mindful of maintaining balance a little bit more to offset a lot of negative feelings and stresses that I was having that really impacted my own physical health. um, so that's the short of it. I could literally go on to this, but if you have thoughts or ideas about how you create balance, I hope I understood that question correctly, but that's my initial thoughts. Kayla, your challenge. If you can figure out my full name from Kayla, I will start using it on here from now on. I am down for upping my ERP game tonight. I mean, I would have seen Kelly. Is that your name? Let me know. That would be my first guess, I guess. Erica in the house. How are you, Erica? It's good to see you. Katie's in the house. Hi, Katie. How are you? Terry in Australia. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you. You get extra credit because you're from another continent. Sorry, folks. I'm going to keep scrolling down here. Deleuze. So Deleuze wrote at 7:10. It's like peace saying, I'm not available right now. You need to make an appointment whenever you want to manifest it through grasping and aversion. Yeah, I agree with that. And sometimes I make an appointment with peace, right? That's what I was talking about scheduling. I don't think there's a right or wrong way. We draw it where we can. But I definitely don't think we want to grasp it through aversion or avoidance, right? Like our peace is, I don't think avoidance is restorative. In other words, if I'm purposely taking a nap because I have time to take a nap to recharge, I think that's really healthy. I think that if I have 3 meetings and I just can't take life anymore and I need to duck out for a couple hours, that's also very valid. I don't know if I'm saying this correctly, because there's times where I've done that and I've actually said that's self-care, and it probably might have been, but there's obviously avoidance that we kind of don't want to. We want to avoid avoidance as much as we can. But I also don't think we should try to be perfect with it. I think you should try to look at like the scope of your week and try to determine what's healthiest for you. And try to break it apart in accordance with your values and what you find is meaningful. It's funny. As you know, I was an actor, and I worked as a professional actor. And it's funny because if I look at that now, and I stopped acting in 2014, wow, almost 10 years ago. And if I think about, if I became famous or made it, and I really don't think I would have enjoyed that life very much for me. If I think about the life I live now and the things that I want that I'm still working to get, that lifestyle definitely doesn't give that to its people. As you know, when you see celebrities all the time talking about their mental health and slowing down, and I mean, just knowing what it goes into shooting a movie and doing press and going to the next thing and traveling and all this stuff, I have some gratitude toward the fact that like my life just sort of pivoted and went some other directions, because I think it opened it up for some really important values in my life that I may or may not have been ignoring. So I think at the end of the day, taking a step back and meditating on what do you want your life to look like, and trying not to look at life as black and white, and either as like, extreme working like crazy or ducking out. What does it look like? Okay, for instance, today I had 20 minutes and I went and played video games. which I just broke out because I actually had some extra time. Hopefully, no one that employs me is on this thread of this live stream right now. What I said was researched video. Anyway, and I played it for 20 minutes, and it opened up my brain. It got my head out of my work for a while, and like just that 20 minutes really gave me a nice little recharge. That when I jumped back into meetings, I was feeling pretty good. So it's not so much quantity, but quality, and what times can we steal, for lack of a better word. So, hi, Ethan. I have read that OCD is thought to be genetic disorder, not generally from post-trauma event. Can a person's core fear be based on event that caused your fear or trauma in the past? Great question, Wendy. 7:10 p.m. Sorry, Amanda. So I'm just going to read because it's kind of two questions. So the first thing is, it's not called a genetic disorder, but there's definitely genetic components, and research has shown that it can be passed down genetically. So as far as that goes, most likely it's genetic. If we look back at our families, our parents, grandparents, and so forth, have they identified the genes that pass along OCD? No. Are they working on it? Yes. But there definitely is a strong genetic component, and I think that genetics gives you a disposition to having OCD. Now, whether that OCD is activated or not depends on a number of things, right? So this gets to the second piece of your question. So for me, I was born with OCD and it just manifested on its own, right? As early as I can remember, I was having obsessive thoughts and compulsions and things like that. So what you're describing is kind of like a real event, OCD. For instance, and this happens a lot of people with emetophobia or fear of vomiting, right, have some bout at some point in their childhood with some awful food poisoning or stomach virus that then from that moment forward, they become deathly afraid of throwing up, right? I don't know that I would categorize that as a trauma. It was a traumatic experience because of how it played out. So, and OCD can also be activated by trauma events, whether it's sexual, it's abuse or a car accident, or even having perinatal, postpartum, having babies. Not that that's traumatic, but it can be. Milestones in life, puberty, college, high school, graduations, things like that, right? Those are all common times that OCD can usually manifest. And so, so the short of the answer is yes, absolutely. OCD can be based on an event that happened or some truth in your life, and many times it often is. Can a person's core fear be based on an event that caused you fear or trauma? And so, yeah, 100%, absolutely. And I can look back on things and see things in my own life. Now, whether, like I said, whether the OCD was already manifesting and we just didn't realize it. And many times, by the time we get a diagnosis or we're aware of it, there were already things that were happening. We just didn't have the education to know. But 100%. So hopefully that answered both sides of your questions. Tara at 7:10 p.m. asks, hi, Ethan. I have health anxiety and recently did the outpatient OCDI McLean program. And one of my homework assignments was to watch your opening speech at one of the OCD conferences. My question is, how did you get yourself on the road to recovering? I had this OCD where I keep going to the doctors for reassurance, and it's a vicious cycle. Well, I relate to that. So thank you for referencing the speech. Did you watch it? Because I talk about that. No, I'm just giving you a hard time. At the end of the day, and this goes for everyone in this room that's suffering or has OCD, doesn't matter what your subtype or symptom is. It's all about the embracing uncertainty. That is the literal key to conquering OCD, is our ability to sit with uncertainty no matter what our mind throws at us. And even if our mind throws something at us that actually happened before. So what does that mean to sit with uncertainty? Well, it's not looking for certainty. It's not looking for reassurance. It's not looking to engage in repetitive compulsions and rituals to prevent something that may or may not happen because we think it may, or we think it did, or we have to make ourselves feel better or anything like that. It's living a value-driven life where OCD isn't dictated what we're doing. Now, the biggest question, of course, is, well, how do I do that? How do I get to that place of living an uncertain life? And that is where, exposure and response prevention come into play, and acceptance commitment therapy and other modalities of treatment and constant practice and stuff like that. But ultimately, my secret sauce is your secret sauce. It's the same, right? It's the ability to embrace uncertainty. So, and I've talked about times, and it doesn't mean that I don't struggle with health anxiety now. It doesn't mean that I don't struggle when something new comes up for me that I haven't experienced, that after a few days, if it hasn't gone away, I want to run to a specialist and make sure that I'm okay. But I have sort of protocols and things in place that I've built over time with people that I sort of follow, guidelines, if you will, that I know keep my OCD in check and keep me in check. Doesn't mean that I'm perfect with it, but those are in place. So, the reality is health anxiety can be really crappy because it's rooted in reality to a certain extent. People do get cancer, people do get MS, people do get diabetes, people die suddenly, people have heart attacks. It starts from chest pain. A headache sometimes is an aneurysm or a brain tumor, right? So it's very easy for our OCD brains to go, but that happens, this happens, so I need to be over vigilant because our brains are survival machines. That's what they're trained to do. They're trained to survive. So just like in my case, I did not want to die. So every thought that I thought I might die or my life might be at risk, I took actions to make sure that it wasn't at risk. Um, so inevitably, back in the day, and by in the day I mean dinosaurs. There were saber-toothed tigers and monsters lurking around, and that's why our lizard brains acted the way they do. We still have those lizard brains. There's just no dinosaurs anymore. Now, there's a lot of shit going on. Don't get me wrong. It's a dangerous place for sure. But the reality of it is that we have to be willing to live with a certain amount of discomfort and uncertainty around pretty much everything because we don't have certainty around almost anything. I have no problem repeating this nugget that I love to share, which is, we don't have any certainty. The only thing that's certain that it is if we continue to listen to our OCD and listen to our compulsions and do them, our OCD will get worse and our life will get smaller and smaller. That is certain. And I always think that's interesting with a disease where you have to brace uncertainty. And we're here saying there's no certainty, there's very little certainty. Well, that is the one certainty, is that if you do what OCD tells you, it's going to make you really sick. So so that's essentially it. And I know it's a vicious cycle, but the question you have to ask yourself, Tara, is, am I willing to live with the possibility that whatever insert fear may happen? And if your life is being taken up so much by these trips to the doctor and seeking this reassurance, OCD has a funny way of creating the reality that you're afraid of. And so, going to the doctor, for me, I went to the doctors all the time. I stayed in bed because I didn't want to get sick. And so who stays in bed all the time and goes to the doctors all the time? People that are sick, right? So OCD literally created the reality that I was afraid of living because I wanted to be healthy. I wanted to be vibrant. I wanted to lead a meaningful life. I didn't want to be stuck in the bed or at home or worrying about my health. That's exactly what I was doing all the time. So, ask yourself, what are you losing and what are you gaining? And is it worth it? And even if your mind says, oh no, it's worth it, it's my life. Well, is it worth it? What is the danger? What is the risk? Because, if you're not living, if you're not truly living and you're just existing, is that the life that you want? And if it is, that's valid. No one's here to judge you at all. And I definitely won't judge you. But, if you want to do more than exist in life, then you have to be willing to risk letting your OCD be right in order to get it to shut up. I'm going to keep cruising down here. Lots of good questions. Gosh, I'm only at 10:11. I love Grace's question. I have a feeling. I have a feeling I'm gonna skip you, Grace. But let me know if you didn't hear. Grace asked, you don't need to post it, Amanda. What are some coping mechanisms you all have for those with severe OCD? We talked a lot about different modalities of treatment, exercise, meditation, eating healthy. But again, those are just additional things. Those are not ways to treat OCD. Those are just additional things to do. But hopefully we already touched on some things, Grace, that you can take away with. But please leave another question if you have further. But I'm sure knowing this group, they definitely weighed in. Two bros. Hey, Ethan, really struggling. Never understood my OCD and compulsions till it got so debilitating. I've got very similar OCD with health-related problems, actually starting NBI Monday. Well, I know the folks at NBI really well. You are in very, very good hands. I know it can be intimidating and scary and all of the things, but I will tell you, it's an amazing place to be. And, take advantage of it for sure. I know it can seem debilitating and scary. And if I know them, they're going to start with helping you understand what it is you're going through before we even get to exposure response preventions, right? Why you do what you do, what OCD is all about, how it manifests, how we relate to OCD, understanding its behaviors. And you know what? If you're not ready to do ERPs, they'll work on a willingness to change as well. So thank you for sharing that. I'm super excited for you. You will definitely have to check back with us and let us know how you're doing. I also give out my personal email, or at least my personal IOCDF email at the end of this. So stay in touch with me, two bros, and let me know how things are going. You can email me, and I'd love to continue the discussion. Wendy at 7 p.m. says, can a person's attempt to find core fear become an obsession? Sure, absolutely. I mean, any of the things to determine anything could be an obsession, right? So we have to learn at a certain point to do it not perfectly, right? So we can assess what is our core fear. And once we get down to that point and we've identified it once or twice, then we need to move forward. And when that thought goes, well, what if I got the wrong core fear? What if I'm not doing this right? We're just going to sit with that. And you know what? If you got the wrong core fear, maybe you may not get better, right? We gotta live with that discomfort, but we have to assume that it's most likely the OCD talking, and so we're going to keep moving down the path anyway, and despite of. So that would be my suggestion. Let's see here. Actually, had good stuff to talk about too. Lola asks, is the music you go listen to if you want to unwind from OCD or unwind in general? Oh, is there music? Oh, great question. I love music. I've always loved music. Secret Ethan talent. I've played piano since the age of 3. And I'm a huge music junkie. I love listening to relaxing music. I think that it's really helpful. I used to sleep to music. I listen to it on planes if we hit turbulence and things like that. In fact, I was just on a flight from Canada. It was super bumpy. So I put on my earbuds and just listen to music. I think, your preference is really, I don't know that there's specific OCD. I should create an album called OCD, the music, to help you. But no, I think different people have different things they respond to. The goal with music, again, you don't want to listen to it compulsively. The goal isn't to eliminate the thoughts or drown them out. It's simply to put us in a more present-minded state, right? And for me, it does relax me. And that's kind of I don't listen to music to relax. I mean, I do, but if it's an OCD specific thing, I use it because it's a value and it's something that I enjoy. And I'm going to try to be present with my thoughts, but also get into something. And so music is really effective for me like that. And for me, like in those moments, I'll usually listen to like acoustic, or even some new age, like Enya or massage music, trickling waterfalls and piano and things like that, just because I find that really relaxing. So yeah. Leandro, I value not pooping in the bushes and or getting fined. Haha, thanks, Ethan. You feel that. I got you, Leanne. All right. Awesome. God, I really do adore you all. Hey, Mariella in Argentina. I'm so glad you're here. And you were never late. There is no late in this world. Let's see here. Scrolling down. Okay, Matt B at 719. What are your thoughts, Ethan, on the social media post last week about intrusive thoughts being demonic? I find it can be so triggering to someone with religious OCD with such a stigmatizing, bogus post. Yeah, I totally agree with you. So I have to be honest. I think that was in regard to the Luke Combs comment or article. I didn't see or read. I forget what I was doing. The last I heard was on the. I was doing something. I don't know it as intimately as Katie does because I know Katie directly addressed it. But I don't need to know the overt details to know that it's awful. It's awful. The guy's a jackass and clearly is looking for a rise and, getting a rise in someone, in people, and he has an audience and he's, I'll get heated about it, but he's being a dick. It's very triggering, and it's very triggering for anyone with OCD. So, don't feel stigmatized just as you have religious group or whatever. Anyone with OCD, whatever the thoughts are, it's like you're our brothers and sisters. And, so it was an asinine comment that was just to get a rise. I don't know whether he believes it, whether he doesn't. I've heard the things where he's come on and said, I know what OCD is, but I still think that this particular thing is. Yeah, I think that it was awful and really hurtful, and I think, people are gonna continue to stay stupid shit, and as long as we continue to, be louder, this community is amazing. I remember when Swig Life just last week had posted obsessive cup disorder, and we all went after them, and they started blocking people, but 2 days later the post was down, and I thought that was really cool. Um, I think this community is incredibly amazing at trying to educate compassionately, and we do it in mass droves. It's like this incredible army. So yeah, the short of my post is there it was awful, and it's totally stigmatizing and totally bogus, and and we just hopefully don't give it much attention. I thought Katie did a brilliant job, not just because she's my fiance, but I thought she did a brilliant job of handling it. I thought she did a brilliant job of not tagging the person who posted, who made the comment, in her reaction, because she didn't want to start a dialogue for him on it. Some people are just not interested in learning or understanding, and those people we just want to like ignore and not try to um, engage with, and at the same time amp up the education, right? So you can be reactive by being proactive, and I think that's a good stance to take with that. But yeah, I'm sorry for anyone that really, I mean, I think it hurt all of us, but for those of you that it hit really close to home too, I'm so sorry, and I hopefully you found support. You have support here for sure. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Matt. I appreciate it. um let's see here. Somebody better answer Leon's. Okay, favorite grocery item while shopping locally. My favorite grocery item is, I love buying cut fruit. It's like the one thing. I like buying the bowl of cut fruit because it's all fruit that I wouldn't cut myself. I'll cut certain fruits, but like I don't want to sit there and cut a cantaloupe and a honeydew and a pineapple with strawberries. Well, I'll eat strawberries and grapes. I love fruits that come ready to eat. Whoever God creating clementines was fantastic, because you open it, it's like it's already in pieces, it's already divided. It's fantastic. It's like a pre-cut chicken grown on a plant. Um, so I'm down for cut fruit. That's my jam, because I can just crack open the bowl. I buy literally the largest bowl of cut fruit you can buy, like the party size, and I just eat it all week, and I feel like a boss. So that's my answer. Um, all right. I see a comment. I don't know what it pertains to, because I'm not reading all, but I look for question marks, honestly. So if you want to if you want me to answer, leave a question mark, but don't leave question marks just to. No, I'm kidding. I see Deluce's comment saying, "I think stress doesn't necessarily equal negative mind states. It's more seeing stress as a problem or seeing challenges as a problem." And I agree with you. I don't know if you're commenting on my what I responded, or my response to you. Um, it's more seeing stress as a problem or seeing challenges as a problem. Yeah, I think that I always get excited when life is bothering me, because life is bothering me. In other words, I remember when I was struggling with OCD, or when I do struggle with OCD, and it's the OCD that trumps anything, right? So the thing that's actually I should be paying attention to, I'm not, because I'm worried about the fear or the discomfort or the feeling and things like that. When I'm struggling because it's something in life that's happening, I actually get excited because life is happening, and that's exactly what should be happening. Is that life is happening. I can see the stress as part of life. And when I see the stress as part of life, since I'm grateful to be part of that life, then I can start to reframe. I think that if we're engaging in like I mean, there's a lot of good stress, and that can trigger OCD. There's a lot of difficult stress, and obviously that can trigger OCD, but all of it's a part of life, and I think we can frame it as something that we can overcome and something we can manage, right? And not seeing stress as necessarily um, good or bad, but something to face and feel capable in dealing with. And of course there's going to be times where we feel so stressed we're just like losing it, and that's completely understandable. But I definitely would try to reframe stress as a problem, because even when stress is, I think lots of work can be stressful, but I don't know that lots of work is problematic, right? It can be really beautiful. It can provide for your family, or it can keep you busy, or you can be very productive. And challenges, I mean, growth comes from challenges, and so I'm a big fan of challenges. My biggest challenges So I know there's a lot of questions here and I want to get to them, but I want to share something real quick. Um, I just want to quickly scroll down super quick just to make sure I'm not missing. Um, yeah, Lola, I just caught this. They didn't apologize. Emotional support cup. That would have been amazing. No apologies, and I don't think like anybody that was blocked was unblocked, but they did take it down. So that was a win to a certain extent, anyway. Okay, where was I? Oh, I scrolled up too high, and I apologize. I did want to stop though. Oh, we were talking about stress. That's right. I want to quickly say, and I'll go back to questions in a minute, but maybe you'll get something from this. So I had a very interesting week, or maybe 10 days. And if you know me and you know my stream, I'll always talk about what I'm going through. And so I'm gonna share a challenge that became a win, and maybe it will be inspiring. And it was inspiring to me. So so I guess week before last, over the weekend on Saturday, I started having some somatic body symptoms. Maybe it was from stress, I don't know. And I've talked about this on the past. When things happen, my OCD immediately locks onto it and asks questions what it is, right? And if it sticks around after a certain amount of time, I start to worry that it's something serious. And so something popped up for me. There was a physical symptom. It was actually happening, and it's happened before. And I got stuck on it, and I was really struggling with it. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday of last week, and like Monday, Tuesday of last week, I found myself in a really difficult spot. I was really struggling with it. I was a little depressed, a little sad. I was like getting through the day and working felt like I was trudging through maple syrup. It was really, really hard. And I think the biggest challenge of the week was on Wednesday. I was flying to Canada. So I haven't flown out of the country by myself ever. And I was flying to Canada to speak for work. And then I had a day of going around the city, and then I was coming back on Saturday. So it wasn't a long trip, but when if I'm struggling, for me, there needs to be some space where I'm sort of coming out of it before I move on to whatever challenge is ahead of me. The idea of, leaving my comfort zone, leaving my area, leaving my country, leaving and going to be in front of people, speaking in public for work, and having to be on while I'm not feeling well, while I'm feeling crappy, while I'm sad, have a hint of depression, experiencing a lot of anxiety, obviously exacerbates it all. And so, in the past, when I've had OCD, or when in the past before I got better, I would 100% of the time get out of the situation to eliminate the anxiety. I don't know whether that anxiety was causing what I was feeling, but just to eliminate the additional stress. It's been a long time since I've been in a position where I was facing something like this. And so needless to say, I was really nervous on Tuesday. But what was interesting was not going was never an option. And I don't know that was that way in the past. I would have tried to figure out a way, I would have figured out a way, right? But not going wasn't an option. So then I had to ask myself, well, how do I do this? How do I go and do this thing while I'm actually experiencing a more challenging time in the last, 4, 5, 6 months? And the answer was bring it with me. Bring it with me, be uncomfortable, and accept the realities that I know, which is I'm pretty sure of X, Y, and Z. I don't know for certain, but I'm just going to take that with me. And if I have to cross a bridge that I don't want to cross, I'll deal with it when that comes up. But in the meantime, I'm just going to have to, and I had fears like, what if I freak out on the airplane? What if the symptom happens and it gives me so much anxiety when it happens that I have panic attacks on the airplane and I freak out? And then of course, in my mind, I open the door and plane crash and, I get arrested, and where our minds go. We have the same minds. And so it was every little thing was kind of terrifying and exacerbated, but I really wanted to bring it with me. And so I did. I got my car, I drove to the airport, parked, went in, got on the plane, and put on earbuds. Right, I listened to music, and I landed. And what was interesting was when I got there and got in the car, I allowed myself, and I'm saying this because this is not, I don't do this every time. This is the goal. Like this, and I'll celebrate this win, but this is always the goal. It doesn't always happen, but as I got stuck in traffic on the way from the airport to the hotel, and I was in traffic for about 2 hours. So I was just kind of like, you know what? I'm going to be uncomfortable. I'm going to be hot and be sweaty, and I'm going to be uncomfortable. And I'm just going to look around the city and see what's what. I'm in a new city. I'm in a new country. And I also started talking with my driver, who had an incredible story of escaping Afghanistan. And it was really interesting because when I fully surrendered to the idea of letting whatever I was afraid of happen and truly embrace the moment and the present. Now, this is a bonus. I'm not saying that this will happen if you do this, but this is the benefit of sort of being in a place of maintenance and management of OCD, is when you do this and you don't give in, that OCD fire goes out really, really fast. And it's such a great place. It's such a blessing. So by the time I got to the hotel, the symptom had stopped. I felt great. I was super excited for the trip. And I went on to had a fantastic 3 days and really got out of my comfort zone. Foods and exercise and walking and doing crazy stuff and all the things. And then I had flight delays and maneuvering life. And I really enjoy that because it's something I couldn't do 10 years ago or 12 years ago, whenever it was. And I remember sitting on the plane about to take off on the way back, and I texted my therapist and I said, I'm really proud of myself. This was a big win. And I kind of just said, she knew I had met with her before I left. And it's funny because when you expose OCD for what it is, then it's like this, it's like this little nothing, right? That you can be like, oh my God, you tricked me again. Because I had the same symptom last year. And I got back home and this symptom popped up and I laughed at it. I was like, no, not this time. I know you. You're stressed. I don't care about you anymore. And so the bottom line is, I loved this for so many reasons. I think that it's really hard to do that. And it's hard for me to do that. There's situations in the last, even since I've been better, right? In the last 12 years where that wasn't the decision I made. But I did this time. And it's been a minute since I've faced something like that, but I did this time, and it was really scary and really challenging. And maybe if you're watching and that's not your thing, that's not a big thing to you, and that's okay. But it's always something that I had struggled with when I was really struggling. And so to be able to do something that was out of my comfort zone, and I got so much growth out of it. But I think that it was so cool to expose OCD, to see the switch happen so fast back to sort of Ethan baseline, and to just have a really good week and come back really confident and feeling good and excited to jump on here and share this with you, right? Because you guys hold me so accountable. I always say giving back is the best thing you can do for your OCD, and it's absolutely true because, I truly believe that I wouldn't do half the things if I didn't have to report back to my friends, right? I'm not going to sit here and tell you to do things that I don't do myself. I'm just not. I'm not that person. This is too serious for me. It's too authentic. I'm not going to do that. So, I think about the community. I think about my friends. I think about you when I make these decisions, and you definitely are a big kick in the butt when there's hard things to do. So yeah, thank you. And there was another piece to this, which was I tried to negotiate with this trip too. Like I was like, well, if I just do the work thing and then I leave the next day, well, that's a win. Now I'd planned to stay the next day and tour the city and then leave the following day. But I was like, the work thing is the thing I have to do. The other thing is the optional thing. And so, you know what? Let me just see if I can get through the work thing and then leave. But I quickly reframed that for myself as A, that would be very white knuckling, like gritting and bearing it, just get through. And what a great opportunity it was to literally plan to be there an extra day, being uncomfortable. And the goal is to have fun that day, to not work, to take off, to be with some work colleagues and to walk around the city and explore and try new foods and do fun stuff. I'm almost more proud of that day than I am the work day because I think you know working is challenging, but can be an easy distraction for sure and help. I think that that day I'm notorious for changing my travel plans. Yes, Toronto actually. Yeah, I think I mentioned it. Good guess. I mean, hopefully I mentioned it. Um, what was I saying? I notoriously change my travel plans. I've always done it, mostly because of OCD. I extend it, change it, move it around. But even now, I love to change. I love to change travel plans. The universe changed them on me. They canceled my flight, so that doesn't count. But I wanted to share that story with you because I think it's important for you to know that. Said Canada, but not the city. Yeah, Toronto, which was a really cool city. Um, and by the way, I'm gonna share some. So it's funny how it's funny how stigma goes in because, like I said, oh, they know it's Toronto. Here, I love OCD. It's so great. I'm gonna call my OCD out. So when Duluth said Toronto, my mind went, oh my God, they're not gonna think I really went international because it's pretty close to the US. And now I don't seem. Now I'm kind of fraudulent in what I just said because it wasn't like I went to Japan and it's so fascinating to me how instantly it's like, well, that's only 2.5 hours away. I mean, that's not really another country. I mean, technically it is. So I just want to share that with you. So OCD is funny. It's just gonna keep throwing things in there. But anyway, I wanted to share that with you because I think it's an important story. We have to celebrate our wins and we have to celebrate our challenges and our growth, and we can also talk about the things where we don't necessarily win because it makes us want to strive even more. So anyway, I wanted to share that with you. I hope that you got something out of that. I will take that win today. I will hope that I will make that choice next time when it comes up. And that's always the goal. I don't have certainty around that, but I will surely try. um, oh, thanks, Matt. I appreciate you. Yeah, I do that shit, Lana. I said shit. Yeah, I totally do that shit. Or my brain does it. I don't necessarily want to, but I for sure it for sure does it. All right, I'm gonna scroll back up. Let's try to grab a couple more questions before we wrap up. Okay, let's see. Where was I? I think 7. I think I was Lucas at 7:31 p.m. What would be your advice for someone with scrupulosity that's enhanced by depression and mood struggle? Intrusive thoughts hit much harder when my mood is low and it's hard to regulate that. Yeah, it's a great question, Lucas. Um, and I think I can broaden this out to address, really anyone with OCD. I know that my depression was really bad when I was really struggling. I'll preface this, and I know I say this at the beginning, but I'm not a clinician. I'm only speaking from my lived experience and what I've heard other clinicians talk about. I like to steal their stuff. There's two things to look at here, and I think it's important. And I can't make this assumption something, but you always want to look at number one, what your primary symptom is. Right? Is it OCD, and you're having depressive states and mood struggles because of the OCD, or do you have a primary diagnosis of depression um, and mood, whether there's some bipolar or whatever it is, and OCD, right? Because they're treated differently. Typically, when you have depression because of OCD, as you work on the OCD, the depression lightens. A lot of times, if depression or some mood diagnoses is a primary symptom, then as you ease the OCD, that doesn't change. It doesn't lighten up. Regardless, yes, it's very challenging, and you're not alone. Whether it's scrupulosity or any other type of OCD, tackling OCD when you're feeling really low is really hard. And I really struggled with mood regulation and depression, even though they weren't my primary symptoms. I would go to do exposure and I would end up crying on the floor, just unable to do anything at all. Um, so there's a couple things so the bottom line is you're totally not alone. The second thing is there's lots of things to do, and C, yeah, it's really, really challenging because a lot of things that require treatment for OCD require engaging in a tool for the therapist tool for depression called behavioral activation, which is literally getting up and doing anyway. So the first advice is there are other modalities of treatment that are really helpful for depression and mood stabilization. So for instance, if doing ARP is so triggering that it really destabilizes your mood and or increases depression, doing like dialectical behavioral therapy, which is specifically for emotional regulation, is a really helpful modality of treatment. So is acceptance commitment therapy, and there's a lot of other wonderful treatments that can focus on that. Ultimately, I think a really helpful tool and a piece of advice I would give you is, and I know this is really hard, so I say this with the utmost humility, is are you able to bring your feelings with you and do it anyway? When I was struggling at my worst and really being challenged to do things like work a job, when I was crying, my therapist will say, well, go to work crying. And I'm like, I can't. I'm the most depressed I've ever been. He's like, fine, be depressed at work. Right. And like at first I didn't get it, but then I was like, okay, I guess. And I would get on the bus crying, and this is in Boston, and go to Guitar Center where I sold keyboards crying. And it's heavy. I know how heavy that depression is. It's really heavy. And carrying that is so difficult. But my therapist used such a great analogy, which was like, are you chained to the floor? Is something physically preventing you from moving? And if that's not the case, can you bring it with you? Right. So the goal with this treatment is not to feel better initially. And we want to feel better. We want to feel better like yesterday. Right. But you're not going to feel better when you start ERP right away. It's just not in the cards. It's not how the treatment works. When you start cancer treatment, you do not feel better on your first round of chemo. Right. So the goal is, can you do the work and not have the expectation of feeling good? Can you do the work depressed? Can you do the work? Now, obviously, mood is a different thing. And if you're literally dysregulated like I was, then that's a different thing. And we might have to work toward regulating that mood a little bit, whether there's therapy or medication, whatever's best for you, an expert would tell you. But in general, if we can bring that with us, whatever that feelings and emotions are, and do them anyway, then I think that's a really healthy thing to do. It's challenging, it's hard as all get out, but the ability to act in spite of is really, really helpful and really effective. And so know that you're not alone. Know that that is such a common, I'm not saying we understand your individual experience, but that is such a common experience. I know everybody here can probably speak to that if they didn't leave you comments before on your question. And so, obviously, if you're not working a provider, connect with a provider. There's great treatments other than ERP that are really good for mood stabilization and depression, right? And as those things lighten. But if that stuff is based on your OCD, usually as OCD starts to diminish, the depression comes along with it. The mood stuff is a little bit more tricky, and again, would need an assessment and a diagnosis and maybe some other tools and stuff like that. But you got this. You do. So don't look at the goal of moving forward and treatment as feeling better. The feeling better will come. That is the goal, right? But as I said, this is the perfect way to end it. I'm going to bring it back around. We don't want to pay too much attention to our feelings in the beginning. Our feelings are valid, but they're not the truth of what we're doing and where we're at right now. They're not telling the true story. So thank you, Lucas. Great question. And with all of that, I really appreciate all your questions and yes, act in spite of. I love that too. I just steal other people's really good comments. So with all of that, thank you so much for being here tonight. Y'all crushed it. I didn't even get to half the comments, and I thought I went pretty fast. So first of all, thank you to, sorry, I was trying to read other comments. Thank you to the IOCDF and Amanda behind the scenes. Tomorrow, 12 p.m. Eastern, Ask the Experts with Dr. Liz and Chris. wherever you're viewing this, you can view them in the exact same spot. This live stream is one of many. You can visit iocdf.org peace of mind /peace of mind to learn more. Last and not least, obviously, if you need resources, you can go to iocdf.org and tons of resources. And as always, I like to give out my email at the end. Questions, comments, suggestions, agreements, disagreements, whatever you have, feel free to email me at justethan@iocdf.org. That is my email. It's private. I'm the only one that checks it. So know that it's a safe space, or at least as safe as Gmail can be. And with all of that, thank you for being awesome. I'll see you 2 weeks from today. Stay vigilant, stay safe, feel the feels. Don't let OCD off the hook. Have a beautiful evening, and I'll see you in 2 weeks. Thank you so much. Love you guys.